When you hear the word development, what pops into your head? Is it a bigger paycheck, a faster car? I mean, we throw that word around all the time, but what if our whole idea of progress is, well, kind of missing the point? Today, we're going to dig into that. We're going to challenge what development really means. Let's get into it. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to ask if we can even agree on what the goal is. Then, we'll look at the usual yardstick, money, and see why it just doesn't measure up. We'll expose the big problem with averages, find a much more human way to track progress, and then we'll tackle the biggest question of all. Is any of this actually built to last? All right, first up, let's bust this myth that development is some simple one-size-fits-all goal. We kind of assume everyone wants the same thing, right? But the reality is way, way messier. What you see as progress totally depends on where you're standing. Now, take a look at this. You've got so many different worlds all in one shot. The rickshaw puller, the family in that car, the people up in those apartments. Sure, they all want a better life, but are they all chasing the same dream? For the rickshaw puller, maybe development is just a smooth paved road. For the family in the car, it's probably less traffic. Their ideas of a better life are already completely different. And this is where it gets really tricky. For an industrialist, a brand new dam means more electricity, more stuff being made. That's progress. But what about the farmer whose land is about to be at the bottom of a lake because of that dam? For them, it's total destruction. So you see the problem, right? What's development for one person can literally be a disaster for another. So, if everyone has a different goal, how on earth do we measure progress for a whole country? Well, the simple answer, the one we always fall back on, is just to count the money. And to do that, we kind of invent this statistical character. Let's call him Mr. Average, who's supposed to represent all of us. And the favorite tool for this job is something called per capita income. It sounds complicated, but it's not. You take all the money a country makes in a year, you divide it by the number of people living there, and bam, you get one single number to judge everybody. This is the main thing the World Bank uses to say who's rich and who's poor. It's simple, it's clean, but is it right? Okay, let's put it to the test. Look at these two imaginary countries, country A and country B. Their average income is exactly the same, 10,000. So if we just listen to Mr. Average, they're equally developed. But just take a look at the numbers. If you had to pack your bags and move to one of them, which one would you pick? Yeah, I'm guessing you chose country A. And you've just found the massive flaw. This cartoon says it all. In country A, things are spread out pretty fairly. But in country B, you've got 4 people with next to nothing and 1 person who is incredibly rich. The average completely hides this huge gap. It's like a curtain that stops us from seeing who's actually getting the benefits. Okay, so we've seen how averages can be super misleading, but that was just a made-up example. Let's jump into some real-world data and see how this plays out when we compare actual places. All right, let's look at 3 states in India. If we're only judging by per capita income, Haryana is the clear winner here. It's the richest of the 3, way ahead of Kerala and just miles ahead of Bihar. So, game over, right? Haryana wins. But wait a second. Let's look at something else. Something that tells a totally different story. Infant mortality rate. And whoa, the whole picture just flips upside down. In Kerala, only 6 out of every 1,000 babies die before they turn 1. In wealthier Haryana, that number is 28. That's more than 4 times higher. So what in the world is going on here? Well, it's because cash in your pocket can't buy you everything you need for a good life. It can't buy a pollution-free neighborhood or medicine you can trust or safety on your streets. That stuff depends on public services, good schools, healthcare for everyone, a society that works. Money is important for sure, but it is not the whole story. Which brings us to the hero of our story. If income by itself is a broken metric, then we need a better way to measure things. A way that looks beyond the wallet and actually asks what makes a life good. And that's where the Human Development Index, or HDI, comes in. This is something the United Nations puts out, and it doesn't just look at income. It combines money with 2 other huge pieces of the puzzle: health, which it measures by how long people live, and education, which it measures by how many years people go to school. This gives us a much richer, way more complete picture of how people are actually doing. And this is where things get really fascinating. When we use the HDI to look at India and its neighbors, some surprising things pop up. Look at Sri Lanka, look at Bangladesh. They both have a lower per capita income than India, but they ranked higher on the Human Development Index. How is that possible? Well, it's because their people, on average, are healthier and more educated. It's powerful proof that real development is about people's lives, not just about the size of the economy. So, great. We found a better way to measure development. We're looking at health, education, and income all together. Problem solved, right? Well, not quite. Just when we think we've got it all figured out, this massive new question just lands in our lap. Can we actually keep this up? This quote just nails it. It's the core idea of sustainability. It forces us to stop and ask, is all this progress we're so proud of today just coming at the expense of tomorrow? Are we building a better world, or are we just running up a huge bill and leaving it for our kids to pay? I mean, the pressure on our resources is just immense. On one side, you have something like groundwater. Yeah, it's a renewable resource, but if we pump it out of the ground faster than the rain can fill it back up, well, even renewable things can run out. And on the other side, crude oil. That's a non-renewable resource. Once that's gone, it is gone. And the scale of this challenge is kind of staggering. Nearly a third of India is already overusing its groundwater reserves. And for the non-renewable stuff like oil, we're working with a fixed supply. There's only so much of it in the ground, and we are using it up fast. Get this. The latest estimates say if we keep using crude oil at the same rate we are today, the world's known reserves will last for about 47 more years. Just let that sink in. 47 years. For a lot of us, that's well within our lifetimes. This isn't a problem for the distant future, it's right around the corner. So this is where we end up. We started out asking what development is, and we found out it's about so much more than money. It's about giving people long, healthy, educated lives. But that discovery just leads us to an even bigger, tougher question. What good is all this progress if it's built on a foundation that's crumbling? What's the point of improving our lives today if it means we're bankrupting the future? That's the real challenge we all have to think about.